Ryan Doyle in for Michael Corrin this evening on The Arena. We've heard the horror stories before. Somebody is out on bail and then they reoffend. It seems like a Canadian tradition in a way, a sad one at that. And Ross McLean, security expert, former police officer, joins us to talk a little bit about this. Ross, it is an embarrassment, if you ask me, the idea that people get out on bail and it seems like bail isn't a privilege anymore. It's something that's just handed out like a day pass. And then, you know, they reoffend right away. What is being done to prevent bail from being given out like candy?
Oh, there's very little being done to prevent bail given out like candy. In fact, the system, Ryan, is set up almost across the country. It's a provincial system that sets up for the bail. Provincial courts, provincial judges deal with it. And they are set up now because the jails are so full that they just let people out, even if they're violent criminal offenders. I mean, I've been doing a little bit of looking into this, and I see we've had this problem in British Columbia. They have this problem. Manitoba has this problem. Ontario obviously has this problem. PEI has this problem. The provinces aren't keeping the violent people off the streets.
All right, but I hear you use the word problem. Do they see it? I'm talking the powers that be, the people in the justice system. Do they see it as a problem?
Complicated question. They don't see it as a problem. They see it as an opportunity to put more of them back out on the streets. They just had about 75 justice officials got together on a national basis to try and figure out what's the problem with bail and all of our jails being full. They got together, came up with a bunch of recommendations, Ryan. All the recommendations were how to get them out rather than put them in on bail. So because the provinces have not been building the jail capacity, there's no room to put them in the jails. One of them cited an economic study that says, look, if we have somebody out on bail, it costs the province $5 a day to look after them. If they're in jail, it's $200 a day. It's a pretty easy economic question.
But certainly public safety can't be sacrificed just to save dollars and cents. I mean, it has to be more than that, no?
Public safety is being sacrificed. It is you know, there's three different players in this game. You know, the first being the police, who arrest these bad guys. They know who the bad guys are. They know that they're bad characters. The police, if they felt that they were reasonable, they could usually release them at the station if they wanted to. But because they know they're bad, they say, we're holding you over for bail in the morning or on the Monday if it's on the weekend. So they get held over for bail, and then it comes up in front of a justice of the peace. Not a judge, not a trained lawyer, a justice of the peace. That's a civilian appointee. Someone with no legal training is going to make that decision. Now, what happens is those JPs are just letting these people out when the cops know they should be in. The Crowns are arguing to keep them in. The JPs are, no, I'm satisfied, we'll let them go.
Okay, but where's the accountability then? I mean, if you're a justice of the peace and you hand somebody bail, knowing, you know, even if the officers are making the case up and down and screaming that these people should be kept behind bars, where's the accountability to say if that person reoffends, if they get out on the street, they hurt my loved one, where's the accountability of the justice of the peace to say, well, you're no longer a justice of the peace?
As far as I can tell, looking at it, there is no accountability. I have called the Ministry of the Attorney General here in Ontario before to ask about how many people had been out on house arrest or on bail and committed violent crimes. Murder, robbery, woundings, assault, bodily harms. They don't keep those stats. But I'll tell you the stats they do keep for their Justice on Target project that they run. They measure to see how many days it takes to deal with the case and how quickly they can move them through. And they're thrilled to announce that they've gone from 9 days to like 5 days, you know, but they're not doing the body count in there.
Right. I mean, to me, it seems like, and I've made this case before, and people laugh at me, you know, and I've got American roots, so maybe I'm missing something here, but we concentrate so much on rehabilitation, getting people back on the streets, that the punishment aspect of things just doesn't seem to exist anymore.
No, it doesn't, because it costs money to keep people in provincial jails. You know, they do this deal where they're trying to do now a little bit more of the house arrest. We have seen, I think, 40% of our homicides in Toronto, and we're on a record run for them this year so far, 40% of them last year were by people who were out on some sort of conditions, bail, parole, or house arrest. So there's clearly a public safety interest. However, the JPs don't mind. And I'll tell you something else. I've talked to some people inside the justice system. They tell me that the good lawyers, they know which JPs are working the bail courts at certain times, and they'll tell their violent client, Wait another week in Dale until so-and-so comes up.
So they're working the system, basically.
They're working the system.
Okay, then why aren't they? I mean, we talk about accountability. Why is this not an election issue? I mean, crime and safety hardly ever comes up unless it's a summer of the gun like the city of Toronto had. It's barely on the radar when it comes to provincial politics. They should, the voters should be hitting politicians in their wheelhouse and saying, deal with this issue.
Well, here's the problem. The justice system controls all of the statistics. All of the information. Like I said, if you wanted to make it an issue and say this many people are getting out or this JP is making too many bad decisions or something, you can't get that information. Mm-hmm. So all the people know is people are dying. They're seeing violent murders by people under house arrest. And I mean some of the most violent murders, some of the most heinous murders that have made it, the Eaton Center went across North America and the world is on house arrest. House arrest.
Well, and we're also talking about crimes that involve kids as well, people who are out in the system that way.
Let me tell you about this one. Gordon Stuckless, serial recidivist pedophile who pled guilty to some 300 counts of committing sexual assaults against children, was just charged a month ago with another series of them, let out, charged with another series of offenses in another region, but a month after that, the court said to him, look it, promise to stay away from children and give us $500 and you can get out. What is that promise worth? I mean, what is that promise really worth?
Not even the paper it's written on, by the sounds of it.
No.
How do we start to deny people bail? Is that even going on?
Well, I think people need to look at. You need to write to your member of parliament, to the AG, and tell them this is a problem, because the courts are supposed to reflect community values. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to. The community has to have confidence in the justice system. They have to, but there's none of that. So, I mean, you just have to raise the issue, Ryan.
Okay, but are you saying that the people actually have that power, though, or are the politicians just going to brush this off?
Well, I tell you, when enough of them write, they listen, because I've seen some of the feedback on other issues. They'll listen and they'll do something, but it's tough. And, there's not a lot of shows, Ryan, quite frankly, that will go against the powers that be and talk about these sort of problems, because it's all a bit of a club. The lawyers make darn good money out of a plugged judicial system.
I was going to say, you followed the money trail on this, and you'll probably get a lot of the answers.
Look, a lawyer, let's say you've got a lawyer makes somewhere between $500 and $1,000 an appearance for you. It takes, on average, I think it's now 9 appearances before they can deal with something that they could probably deal with if they were smart in 1 or 2 appearances. That's $9,000 extra that the guy can make. And just to make another point on this, and look, there's good lawyers in this. There's good lawyers who want to see the right thing done. I know because I've talked to them. But there's a problem with scheduling. You go into any court and you'll see people there with their paper calendars and they'll say, oh, when can we meet again to discuss this trial? Oh, I got a date in 2 months. No, that's no good for me. I've got something up in another court. Oh, well, how about this date? No, that's no good for me. Do they not know about electronic date timers and coordination, Ryan?
It's a great question. Ross, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.